Hi, welcome to the session 2 of SAP BW 7.4 training. In this class, what we will be seeing is we will be seeing what is architecture of the BW, and then the ECC landscape. Then we will start with the primary object which is involved in the BW is the creation of info objects. What are the different info objects, and then how do you create an info object, and why do you need this info object? Those are the topics which you will be seeing in this video. Okay, so let's begin with the architecture of SAP ECC. If you have listened to my first class, then you would have known I told that ECC is a client-server technology, right? So the client-server technology is basically as a database and then application layer, right? So what happens is, also I told that it's a real-time three-tier architecture. So three-tier architecture in the sense what we have is, we have a presentation layer and then the application layer and database layer. So when a user logs into a SAP and then you would like to get some data retrieved, you will put on some data into the put on a request for some data into the presentation layer, and it goes and processed in the SAP application layer, and it goes to the database, finally brings the data and then give it to you in the presentation layer, right? So what happens here is we can have two different types of architecture here. One is a vertical architecture, other one is a horizontal architecture. So in most of the scenario, you will only be having a horizontal architecture in the SAP, because SAP has a humongous amount of data, and it has multiple users accessing the data at the same point of time, right? So if you have a vertical architecture, you can see by yourself there is only one application layer and there is one database, right? So if at one point of time, if there is numerous people trying to access the database, then at one point the load balancing will not be working and then it will crash, right? So to avoid those scenarios, what in general software market has done is that using multiple application server, and then targeting the same database. So what happens here, for example, when a user, right, in the user 1 is trying to access the data in the database, right? So what he will do is, this is a transparent layer and you might not see anything when you try to log in. So it's really, you don't have to worry about it, but you should know what is an architecture. That's the reason I'm giving you an example, right? So when either one of this person trying to access the data, so you will type in or you will put whatever the data required, right? So he is going to now log in, and then you say okay, I need the sales data of this particular month, right? For example, first quarter. So internally, what happens is it goes and look for whichever the freed up application server. Okay, whichever the application server is free, it will connect through the database to the particular application server and brings it back the data into the and give it back to our presentation, right? Okay, so that's basically the three-tier architecture, and it has a horizontal way of accessing the data. Okay, so it's a simple concept, but even though you might not be when you are working in a SAP project, you may not see this in a real time, but that is what happening. Now you will have three different servers. Basically, it's like 201, 202, 204. It's like W, SAP app 201. Again, in the same way, you will have a three different server. Okay, this is 201, 202, and then 203. Okay, so based on whichever the application server is free, the data was being processed using that server. Okay, after even though what are these different application servers and briefly you might be knowing because I assume that whoever is attending this training as a software knowledge into software industry. If we don't have it, then we can we can always go further deep into it. You guys can send me an email or ping me on the chat. So have a we will jump into further inside the detail. Okay, so now after looking into the architecture, I wanted you guys to know how in a real time environment, how in it's such structured, like how the system is structured, right? So I said ECC is the latest version of 6.0. ECC is called ERP Central Component, and it has the multiple modules, right? So what happens here is in ECC development, for example, in development, this is the entire blue thing. What you see is the ECC. Okay, so in that one, you will have multiple modules, sales and distribution, okay. Sales and distribution will be there, will be there. But this, even though it says development, two different. Do not assume that there is two different boxes there, right? So sales and distribution and are available in the same ECC. The data is fed into ECC through through it could be from a non-SAP data source, also from flat file or from third party tool, or maybe something called LSMW. This is out of the topic. Okay, LSMW is legacy source migration workbench. Okay, so this is an SAP recommended methodology to bring in data into ECC. Okay, so we have development environment. Now, just for example, I've told the sales and distribution and Again, there will be something called QA. Okay, QA environment, right? QA environment, and also there is something called integration. Sometimes what happens is there will be some integration in the sense these two data are totally separate, right? Sales and distribution has some separate data with their own entities. Again, material management has the same has some unique features. But when you have to combine these two, there should be some kind of a primary or a foreign key available between these two, so that if these two are integrated and you get the final result, right? Final result of the data. Okay, so then it basically goes to the production server. Okay, so there will be one more layer also, if possible. This is a development, right? And then we have QA, right? QA, and then basically these are all same QA, and then integration is basically it's a combination of just for the it is a transparent layer. You will not be seeing a separate server for for this, because there is only one server for QA. Okay, then this has been done at the transformation level, when it's massaging of data and the combination of multiple modules are done using a coding called ABAP coding, or you can even do without ABAP coding also if there's a straightforward methodology. Okay, so we can learn about that further in the future classes. Okay, and then it will go. Eventually, you will have another server called production server. This is the server where people will be using it. There could be one more server in between called pre-prod. So you will have development, QA, pre-prod, and production. So when you develop some objects or some changes, enhancement in the development server, it first goes to the QA, and then to the there might be one more server called pre-prod server before QA. Okay? It's just a copy of the QA, but you can test everything there. Just for another one more method of testing, the regression testing. That's what I would say in production pre-prod. Okay? Finally, it goes to the production server. So this is a simple method, a simple flow of any SAP system. Okay, so there is something called transport. Like, for example, in a regular any IT industry, when you develop something and you have to move that code into the or any that objects into an QA, you will call it a different way. But in SAP, it's called as transport. You transport the object. Okay, you transport the objects into the different method, different environment. Okay, so that's pretty much it's a landscape of ECC. Okay, landscape of ECC. We can also see before going into the entire landscape, we should also know there is something called the methodology. What type of methodology is being used in the SAP? In SAP uses a methodology called ASAP methodology. Okay, ASAP is ASAP, accelerated SAP. Okay, accelerated SAP has few steps in the. This is the methodology SAP uses for the implementation. So the first step is there is something called blueprinting. In the blueprinting, what you will do is these are the following things will be done in the blueprinting, which is called requirement gathering. Requirement gathering means working with the business user, and then meeting with the SMEs, and then over the top level people who has the requirement, or any business analyst or any functional people will be giving you the information for the implementation. Okay, that is called in the blueprinting. The one first step is called requirement gathering. Once you have the requirement gathering, then what you will do? You have the data, you have the requirement, but you need to analyze, right? You need to analyze and see whether this is feasible or this can be done in a SAP itself. Okay, what are the data coming in, and from where the data is coming in? How do you load the data into the ECC, and from there how you take it to BW? How will you create a report? So for that, there is something called gap analysis. So gap analysis, as is and to be. As is and to be in the sense, we all know that SAP has delivered everything as a package, right? It got the data sources, it got the the content, the data modeling, everything for every industry is available in the market, right? So when, take for example, if you are implementing a SAP into a transportation company, okay? So transportation company, most of the time they will have financial, they will have sales and distribution, material management, plant maintenance. These are all few modules, what I could say. So SAP already has the business content and data source available for generically, right? But even though it has generic, the requirement changes from company to company. When the company where you're going to work might have data in another legacy database, so that could have had more than what is available in SAP, right? So at that time you need to do a gap analysis to figure out what is available and what are the new changes which need to be taken there, and then basically the changes has to be documented, and then you just do a design document. Okay? Design documentation is functional and technical documentation for the development. So once you do the blueprint, the next stage is to development stage. The development stage, what you'll be doing is you'll be creating a data flow, okay, and then once you create the data flow, and then you create, extract data into BW, then you do the unit testing in the development environment. After you do the unit testing, you have to transport the objects. Data is not transported. I'm going to explain to you here. Only the objects are transported from environment to environment. Okay, so then from dev to QA, the objects are transported. When you transport the objects to the QA, and then the data is extracted from the data is loaded or existing data is used, you will do a testing. Okay, the testing is the integration testing will be done. Okay, integration testing and UAT will be done at the testing phase. Once the testing is done, then the fourth phase is to go live or cutover. What you will do in this go live or cutover is whatever objects you created or you activated in this step, right, will be collected and transport it to the production. Okay, once it moves to production, then you need to load the data from ECC into BW. Okay, and the fifth step is the final support step. After the go live cutover is done, implementation done, then definitely there will be some issues. So there will be some people who don't know what's going on. So you have to give them a support so they are comfortable. Once they're comfortable, then you will be able to help a little less than what you've been doing at the support phase. Okay, so here I want to give you the details of how data is being transferred, as well the objects are transferred between one layer to another layer. Okay. So if this is what is the one you see in the green is the ECC layer, and the one you see in blue is the BW layer. Okay. So in the ECC, you start with, for example, sales and distribution or financial. So they need the data for AI and AP, AR and AP. Okay. So you create, if it is just out of the box plain vanilla change, then you don't need to do anything. You just activate the existing object, okay, in the development, and then you extract the data. Okay, activate the data, and we will see all those things in the future classes. Okay, so in development environment, you activate it, you extract data. You extract data means within ECC only. From then, what you do is, from ECC, you need to replicate the data into the business warehouse. So ECC is different. ECC is a real-time data, OLTP, online transaction. Okay, but BW is OLAP, right? Online analytical process, right? So it has a historical data, but this one is only a real-time data. So from ECC, you will be extracting or replicating data into development business warehouse. So in the same way, it's all vertical. Again, from QA, you transport the objects. When I say an object here, because you have not been used to this one, you might get confused, but do not worry about it, because eventually you will know what are the objects and why are we transporting into different environment. Okay, so data is extracted downstream, but the objects are it's been on the sideways, right? So from environment to environment, you develop the object, you transport to QA, and then to the integration, and then to the production. Okay. But the data are extracted downstream to the business warehouse. Okay, it's with respect to the same environment, development to development, QA to QA, and then production to production. Even in BW, we will be creating objects doing the data modeling, like info object, info cube, or multi-provider, everything. So those objects are transported across the environment. Okay. So typically, like I said, there will be 4 environments, like development, QA. There might be one more pre-prod, and then production. There will be also something called sandbox. So if you think that the changes what you're going to do may or may not work, then what you have to do is, there will be a sandbox environment where you can play around. Okay, so you can also play on a development itself, but this is a much more recommended way of testing your changes or in the beginning, and then if you feel that it's comfortable, then you can start working in the development environment. Okay. So I will tell about the transport and all the different the methodology, or what are the process of transporting those things in down the line. Because right now, if I say, you might not be able to understand what is going on there. Okay, so this is a typical flow of data moving from ECC to BW, and then objects moving across the different environment. Okay. So because we saw the landscape and everything, I also want to give you an idea of what is the data warehousing, right? You should know what is the data warehousing, because when I said here, the ECC is OLTP and this is OLAP, right? So you should also know what is the data warehouse, right? Right? This is a 7.4, okay? So, okay. So is it, data warehousing has three different layers, like a reporting, data acquisition, and modeling, right? So you extract some data, you do the modeling, and basically you report it, right? So these two are back end, and then the reporting is the front end. So for the front end, there are several tools available, several front end BI clients available. So for us, this is going to be Business Explorer or Best Query Designer, okay? Best Query Designer, Web Intelligence, Design Studio, and then several other things are there. Yes, these are all. And then the extraction can be done using data stage or Informatica. These are all not in BW. For BW, there's a separate extraction as well. I'm just giving you. Okay, so for us, we are most concerned about business warehouse extraction. Okay, right? And then the modeling. Modeling, this that are all the ERWIN, ERS, and all is a regular software modeling, but for SAP, there is something called Kimball. Okay, you can go ahead and Kimball methodology. Okay. Methodology. Okay, is the one which is used for SAP, used for SAP BW, BW data modeling. Okay, you can Google it and see. Kimball. This is outside the topic, so excuse me. This is outside of the topic, so you might not be. You might have to do a Google and then check what is Kimball methodology. Okay. The latest version is 7.4. Okay, we used to have 3.5. These are all out of the way right now. The latest version is 7.4. Okay, I don't want to say about this the online and all app and OLTP, but let's see if we just quickly we'll go through. Okay, OLTP is online transaction processing, which is actually ECC, which will hold up to like 1 year of data, right? And it's operational. You can do insert, update, and delete, right? But OLAP is basically it's a online analytical processing, and then it's the OLAP. What we're going to learn is business warehouse. It could have data up to 6 years, and then this is what is basically a DSS, this is called decision support system, right? Based on the historical data, the BI managers and the top level people will decide how to increase their profitability as well the company movement, right? So these are only read. You can only read and analyze. You can also update it. But it's like mainly it's for read and analyze only. Okay, it's a multidimensional modeling. We will learn what is a multidimensional modeling, what is a star schema, what is an info cube, what is everything we'll be learning. Okay, and so before jumping into the real the topic of BW, I wanted to give you just a very brief introduction of what is a data. So you know what is a data, but data is considered as two different types. One is structured data, the other one is unstructured data. Okay, the structured data could be two different types. Again, further electronic master data and transaction data. But unstructured data is all documentation, like PDF or PowerPoint document, like any those are all unstructured data. Okay, so we are most concerned with only the structured data with respect to the business warehouse is concerned. Okay, so when you have data, where do you store the data? Right, when you extract the data from ECC into BW, where do you store the data? So data has to be stored in a place, right? So that's where the info object comes into picture. Okay, now info object. Info object is what? Info object is the smallest business evolution object is called info object. In the sense, for example, somebody is asking you to extract data from ECC to BW, right? So in ECC, we have customer name, gender, date of birth, and zip, right? Okay. So these are the data is coming in from ECC, and this data has to be loaded into the BW. So these are all single entity, right? Like customer ID, name, gender, date of birth. This is a single entity, right? So this single entity has to be have a place to get stored, right? So for that, SAP defines something called info object. It's also called as a field. You can say there's a field, but that's a generic term. In SAP term, it's called info object. Information about an object is called info object. Okay, so info object has multiple types. Okay, the majority type is called characteristic and a key figure. Okay, so characteristics and key figure. So what is a characteristic or what is a key figure? Let's see what is a key figure first. Okay, so for example, key figure is a number and operative. Okay, key figure is a number. Now, for example, price, right? Price is a key figure. Price means, take for example, you're having a product and then it has a price, right? So the price is a key figure, key performance indicator, right? It's the price, the number of units, number of products sold. Those are all the key figure. But just by having a key figure, you might not know what price is this and what is the product is sold, right? So to identify the key figure, we need to have something called characteristics. So characteristics are the one which will identify the key figure. So when you say price, then there will be something called product, right? Product. So if I say product name and then price, then you will know, okay, this is the product name which has a price. So the product name is considered as a characteristic, and then the one which will give the meaning for the price is called, this is the key figure, right? The key figure is a price. So it's a number and operative. Okay. Okay. So out of these two, so like I said, you can also assume this as a field, right? Field. The characteristics can be a field, and key figure is another field. Also, there is something called currency. Okay, currency is again currency is a field, right? Currency is a field. Again, month, year is a field. But these two, SAP has given a flexibility to create our own characteristics and key figure, but they did not give a flexibility to create something with respect to the unit and time. Okay, so these two are really delicate info objects, and they have created their own info objects. It doesn't mean that you will not have a characteristics info object or key figure info object. Even this is available, but you can customize based on the user. This is user requirement. Okay, but for the unit and time characteristics, it's already defined, and we can use this for our development. Okay, so that's the 4 different types of info object, I would say, like characteristic, key figure, unit, time characteristic. So unit and time are already predefined, and you won't be able to add any new unit or time characteristics info object. Okay, but for characteristics and key figure, even though it's available in the SAP as a SAP defined, if needed, you can create your own info object. Okay, so if there is any questions or concern about the info object, you can please always ask me. I can explain to you further down. Okay, so info object is a smallest business evaluation object. Okay. So in order to figure out what we need to do or where the info object has to be, to reside, they have SAP has defined a logical grouping of any objects so that it is arranged in a particular order, right? So otherwise, you won't be able to find out which belong to what. So that's why SAP has the logical grouping of structure objects. So it starts with something called the info area. Info area further down goes to the info object catalog. In the info object catalog, it can be either characteristics or a key figure. The characteristics will have all the respective characteristics key figure, and the info object catalog of key figure will have the key figure info object. Okay, so this is a logical grouping of of an info area. Okay, so now we have seen. I just don't want to go further down. I will just go to the to our the SAP login, and then let's begin with working on a simple, create a simple info area, info object catalog, and then a key figure. Okay, so that would help you understand what is on. Also in SAP, right now, when I logged into SAP, all the SAP screens are predefined with a transaction ID. So this is the place where you can give a transaction. You will learn about this further in the future classes. But right now, just let's now see what I am doing. Right. So there is something called backslash. Right. Backslash to go to a development screen to create a modeling. Okay. Backslash RSA1. Okay. When I save RSA1 backslash. Okay, this function is not possible because we are not in the beginning of the stage. Okay, so what I have to do is, you should always, when you want a new screen, okay, backslash n RSA1. Okay, see now it takes you to a new screen. So remember, if I say just backslash RSA1, don't do nothing because this function is not good. It's like moving from one screen to another screen. So they have a method. So what is doing is n RSA1. Okay, if I say this, it will create a new. It will take me to a new transaction where you can create all your objects. Okay. See, if for example, it doesn't mean that you can only have one instance. You can also have more than one instance. If you want to create another instance of same thing, you go backslash O RSA1. Okay. It will create a okay. You see now you have two different environments, right? So that would be easier if you are looking for multiple transaction IDs. Okay, so that's remember the two different transactions. What you are learning today is transaction RSA1. Okay, this is the beginning of here. This is where is the modeling. This will take you to the modeling screen. Okay. Okay, let's create a simple data warehouse. Okay, let's create a simple data modeling. So I go to I will explain about all these things in the next class, but right now I want to create an info object. Okay, an info object. Okay, so there is let's create a info area. Okay, info area, create info area. Okay, BW class. Say test one. Okay, test. So again, I had to tell you something. When you create any customer defined info object or info area in SAP, you should always start with a Z. Okay, Z. So if you see any info objects or any objects which has a Z in front of it, right? So then you will know that it's customer defined. Okay, so Z. Okay, IA SAP BW 7.4. Okay, so info area. Yeah, BW 7.4. Okay, 2016. Okay. Okay, so now I click OK. Okay, what does it say? Object type must be alphanumeric. So now you know that you cannot give. It's very sensitive that you cannot give dot in this. Okay, now let's try again. It created a info area for us, right? So now the info area is there. The next is to basically from our thing info area, then info object catalog, right? The info object catalog is right click. Okay, create info object catalog. Okay, so Z IOC key figure. Okay, so info object catalog key figure. Okay, okay. So it's a you have to change the things by key figure. Okay, and then create one. Right. So you created a it says info object catalog key figure. Right. So also you should remember in SAP everything need to be activated. So I created something, but it's not coming under this. Right. So what you have to do is you have to click on activate. So it is activating right now. So it's activated and you got the key figure. In the same way, you can create another info object catalog called VIOC CHR. Okay. So info object catalog. Okay. So we catalog CHR. Okay. And then it's by default is CHR. In same way, you have to activate it. After activate, then you will get to know it will come to the it will be in the tree view. Okay, otherwise you will not see that. So now I have info area, info object catalog, and then the characteristics, right? So what I will do is I'll create a info object in the info area. Okay, create info object, key figure, right? The okay, the okay. What do you want to see? Price. Okay, test. See price. BW. Okay, so it's like a price. I will create the same thing again in the next class also because we need to know for an assignment. I'll give an assignment and that will for price BW training. Okay. And then you will learn about this one later on because this is an advanced topic. So I will just do this one. Okay, so price. Okay, the price means the amount, right? It has got everything. It totally. So you can either have a fixed currency or a you can say just use zero currency means you can say fixed currency is what USD. Okay, it says United States dollar, right? That's it. And you activate again. Okay, so we have one key figure under the info catalog for key figure. Next is I'm going to do the same thing for characteristics. Okay, the okay prod name. Okay, what happened? The prod name. It will not take it because it's more than 9 characters. I think it will not take it away. Name. Okay, prod name. Okay, product name. Okay. Then I click OK. And product name, the data type you will see, there is something called characteristics, right? I'm going to say characteristics, and I'll say 10. Okay, just for example, we're just learning right now just to create how much. So I will also you take a reference material, and then I'll start working on the project as well. Okay, so just wanted to give a brief idea of what is this, so that you need to get digested on this one, and then we can go further down. Okay, I'm going to activate. Right? Activate. So it's a training system. We don't even know what is this actually, right? So I go back. These are all tend to come. Okay, training system. People will start working on multiple people will be working. Okay, so you don't have to worry about it. This is okay, so now if you see you have a product name, you have a okay, so this is we just created a simple info area under the info object catalog, and then the info catalog for one for key figure, one for characteristics, and we created 2 info objects, right? So this is I will end the class with this one right now, so you can just have some idea of what is going on, and we will continue our session 3 with the reference material. Okay, so you can look at this class and just try to replicate what I did here in the BW. In the next class, I will use a reference material, and then we'll start with the procedural activities, how to do this one again, and then we will take an example of industry example or business example, and we'll work on it. Okay. Thank you so much.